So, a very interesting development over in New York State. Let's put this up there on the screen, which is the New York Attorney General's office announcing it's opening a criminal investigation into the Trump Organization. Quote, "We have informed the Trump Organization our investigation into the organization is no longer purely civil in nature." So if you look at some of the details about what is happening here, what we're seeing is this says, quote, "We are now actively investigating them in a criminal capacity along with the Manhattan DA." So the notification suggested a cooperative relationship, which apparently is between the investigators at the New York AG, Manhattan DA, who is Cyrus Vance Jr. Both of those officials obviously are Democrats. This is something that I think a lot of people anticipated, but I wasn't sure if it was going to continue. I'm not sure, Colin. I think it's generally a pretty bad idea to investigate your political opponents. And I, by the way, do not think the Trump Organization was probably run squeaky clean like any other thing. But there are broader considerations here. It actually could turn out to be a complete disaster. And many people think that I'm like apologizing or what. No, absolutely not. Like I think, I don't think anybody voted for Trump and is like, yeah, that guy paid his taxes and dotted all the I's, crossed the T's over the years. But I think there's a broader meta-political point here where this could really become like a big flashpoint in the country. Like, can you prosecute a former president and all of that? And especially if it's something about tax fraud or something from like 20 years ago, it would get very hot very quickly and drag us back to a type of politics I'm not sure that we necessarily want to go to. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, here's my question, though. When the New York AG gets involved and says it's criminal, is there some there that's not a 20-year-old thing? We don't know yet.
Yeah,
I would tend to agree with you. Like, we don't want to investigate our political opponents after they're out of their office. They had their time. Let them go. Let's move on. I think the country actually wants to do that, except for the portion of the Republican Party that's still very allegiant to him. I'm with you. Let's keep it moving. But if I'm Trump, right, like I've lost some political influence here, and I've now got a criminal investigation by the New York AG. I'm a little nervous, probably.
Oh, of course. This was always his greatest. This is always his greatest worry. From what I heard, at the end, part of the whole stop the steal thing was actually to buy time and all of that because they were terrified that they were going to be investigated. Ivanka Trump and Jared, I mean, all of these people flagrantly have been doing stuff for a long time. A lot of corrupt practices. The Kushner organization and China, Ivanka, and a lot of the tax breaks, the consulting fees, and all that. And I don't even particularly care. Like, once again, I think this is basically how rich people operate in America, and that's a much bigger story around
different set of rules.
Yeah, it is a completely different set of rules, which they were taking advantage of. And I think that's part of the problem, too, is that a lot of Trump people will see this and say, come on, everybody rich person does this across America. Like, do we really want to investigate it? I think the other problem, too, and this has always been the problem with political AGs, district attorneys, and all that, is these people promised basically to bring a criminal investigation against Trump. It was very popular, and I get it, like by Democratic voters. They hate Trump, and so they want to see some going after. But it's like you said, if you really, I think Biden would probably agree. If you look at the Biden presidency and his entire administration, they don't say Trump's name. They're like, look, we're moving on. We don't have anything that we want to move on. I think that's probably the right strategy. I mean, especially if you see, like, if you see people are out there who are diehard Trump people, nothing you can say to convince them. An official investigation and all of that going after him, it's going to go right back into the witch hunt, the statements, and all that. That just gins things up to a level. Republicans will debase themselves, being like, actually, tax fraud is okay. It's just like that. That's basically what we'll end up back to. But it'll still work. It's just like one of those things that just locks you into hellish politics.
Look, here's what I think. I think you're right in that it moves us back to a completely entrenched series of positions. And if I'm Joe Biden, I don't want that.
You don't want that.
Because a month or two ago, Joe Biden has the highest rating amongst Republicans that a Democratic president's had in years, higher than Obama even.
That's a good point.
So he wants to keep it moving and talk about the checks for child care, the checks that have gone out in support of COVID relief. Like, he wants to keep his agenda moving and not talk about Trump and criminal investigations.
This is something I try to explain around politics. People are like, oh, well, there's nothing you can do. And I'm like, it's not about nothing. It's about margins. And so every time that I go and I think about this, you're like, okay, well, right now, what was the amount of white working class people who voted for Biden? It was 1/3 of the people who voted for him were white working class. Yeah. Does that mean you should write off white working? No. If you win 7% more, you would win by 350 electoral votes. Same thing. If Republicans just won 20% of the black vote, 20%, you literally would win like half the states, more than half the states in the country by a landslide and a massive electoral college victory and popular vote. Yeah. Margins are the things that matter in politics. What I think that Biden always understood is that, look, you're not going to win over all the Trump people, but can you win some people who are on the fence, who traditionally, and actually that thesis was validated, Georgia and Arizona and much of the suburban vote, people like in Omaha, the second whatever district, like whatever, I don't know how the hell Nebraska works, but how that all manifested itself is a very important political lesson. And I do not think this is very much like a Rachel Maddowfication of politics, which did not work against Trump very critically, right, on an electoral strategy.
No, he was Teflon from a lot of those attacks, and I think it was Joe Biden's concerted effort in his campaign to talk to this sliver of voter that might have been a little disenfranchised with Trump's behavior and their economic situation, and said, "Hey, I understand you. I'm like you. My dad lost his job too." Brilliant. And if they keep their focus there, it's going to be a win for them politically as they move forward, whether he runs for re-election or not.
I think you're 100% right. All right, so we'll see how we'll continue to track this one here. But remember, tomorrow on Rising, we still have another amazing Friday planned for all of you. Friends of the show, Max Alvarez, Matt Taibbi, they're going to join us. Crystal's interview with Marianne Williamson and Susan Sarandon on their support for Steve Donziger, who you heard from yesterday. You guys don't want to miss that. Remember to hit the subscribe button. Don't miss any of our videos. A special thank you to Colin for sitting in. For Crystal, it's great to see you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much. And don't forget to like and share as well. And we will see you all later.